What do you mean they made me care about a hut? I'm still trying to wrap my head around that. What do you mean the Mandalorian and Grogu made me care about a hut? Never mind that it's Rada the Hutt, who, yeah, it's the baby Hutt from the Clone Wars movie. What do you mean you made me care about that? I'm still baffled. I am still so baffled by that. But I loved this movie so much. As you can see, Gigi is here to judge me for talking about Star Wars again. I'm not sure why this is the running joke on my channel, that Gigi is going to be involved in my Star Wars videos, but apparently that's what we've got. Because I made one joke in my last Star Wars video about it, and now he's here. Okay, hi, I am Song W. Erickson. This is my channel where I talk about whatever's on my mind, and right now, what's on my mind is that I saw The Mandalorian and Grogu, and I love this movie. A few weeks ago, I did a video talking about my complicated relationship with Star Wars and just how important Star Wars has been to me throughout the years of my life, and just seeing the movies as a kid and growing up reading the EU books and then getting excited when Disney bought it and then becoming disappointed when I saw what Disney actually did with it. I have had a long journey with this franchise. Now, I talked a little about The Mandalorian in that video, and I loved the first 2 seasons of The Mandalorian. I even liked the Book of Boba Fett. I acknowledge it probably wasn't what people wanted, and I wouldn't say it was great, but I enjoyed the Book of Boba Fett for what it was. However, season 3 of The Mandalorian, not a fan of that. Not a fan of that at all, quite frankly. I felt that, one, they undermined Din's entire character arc up until that point, because what do you mean you took the most Mandalorian to ever Mandalorian and said, oh no, you're not the Mandalore. We know we've been setting you up for 2 seasons for this, and it really seems like we were building up to that, but no, you're not the Mandalore. Whatever. I didn't like season 3. That's my point. I also felt that they tried to make the story too big, when The Mandalorian is not a big story. Mandalorian works best as a small gunslinger and child story. So after season 3, I was kind of like, I'm done. I'm out. If this is what you're doing with Star Wars, I'm done. I took some time to mourn that and to process my feelings, went through a lot of stuff. What I didn't mention when I did that video was I was already planning to see The Mandalorian and Grogu. The thing is, I had no expectations for it. I was only going because my mom asked me to go with her, and I was like, okay, whatever. I'm not doing anything else, and it gets me out of the house for a bit. Do you know what got me, though? I hesitate to say the marketing, because the trailers for this movie were not actually very good. What got me was the press junket and the way they took the Grogu puppet on the press junket. I love that they are treating Grogu like a Muppet, essentially. They've gone the Muppet route with how they are handling him as his own character. And I think that is brilliant. Because if you look at, like, Kermit and Miss Piggy and Elmo and all these characters, they're not treated like puppets. They are treated like they are actual people, which I think is a really unique angle to take, and it makes them a lot of fun to deal with. And absolutely love that. So it absolutely delights me that that's what they're doing with Grogu. It was so worth it. Just the the puppetry that goes into Grogu is absolutely amazing. And so I was watching the marketing and clips of Grogu and Pedro Pascal playing games in the marketing, and Grogu being interviewed, and his little face scrunching up when he tasted a lemon, and how happy he got when an interviewer gave him a cookie. It was adorable. It was perfect. And I'm like, okay, at the very least, I'm looking forward to this movie just for how cute Grogu is. And it did remind me how much I do like the dynamic between those two. And I'm like, okay, Grogu will be cute. That's something. We'll see what happens with this movie. Even despite that, uh, when I sat down in the theaters, I did not know what I expected. I didn't have high expectations for the movie, and then it started. And then we had that opening action sequence, and I was all in. I'm like, it's so much fun. It's not taking itself too seriously. It remembers that The Mandalorian and Grogu works because of those two characters. And it remembers that Star Wars is supposed to be fun, right? Like, people talk about the influences of Star Wars being Kurosawa samurai films, of course. Also, people reference Flash Gordon because that's an undeniable influence on Star Wars. For me, I mean, Flash Gordon as a serial takes inspiration from the serialized pulp stories of like the early 20th century, right? And as someone who really loves John Carter of Mars and has read some of the pulp stuff, and like some of the pulp stuff is really good, some of the pulp stuff is really bad. We're not addressing that right now. But the thing is about the pulps is that they were fun, but no one was trying to claim they were high literature. And that was okay. They were commercial fiction. They were just something for you to read and enjoy and relax. And the same thing with serials like Flash Gordon and stuff like that, is you were just supposed to watch them for a bit, get a little invested in the character, and enjoy it for however long each segment was, right? That's what you're supposed to take into Star Wars. And for me, that's what Star Wars is supposed to be. And that's what The Mandalorian and Grogu is. The moment that really solidified this for me, and I'm not going to get into spoilers with the story. I don't think this is a spoiler to say. There is one point where a dragon snake rears up out of the water, and you see the teeth, and you see the coils around it, and the camera pans, and you're looking at it going, holy shit, that's a really big, really deadly snake. And I'm sitting there going, this is a Frazetta painting. Now, for those of you who don't know, Frank Frazetta he's known as one of the greatest fantasy artists of the 20th century. He was extremely influential on fantasy art. The reason Conan the Barbarian looks the way he does today, and not actually the way he's described by Robert E. Howard in the original books, is because of how Frazetta drew him. That if I were ever to Now, I take issue with that because I am very emotionally attached to Conan the Barbarian, and I have a lot of thoughts on his reputation. And however, despite all of that, I have great admiration for Frazetta as a writer and what he did for fantasy art. He was one of the greats, and there is no denying that. And we know George Lucas is a fan of Frazetta's work. Like, we have photos of them together. He owns Frazetta artwork. And so seeing that when that thing came up out of the water, and I was like, oh, this is a Frazetta painting. This is Conan facing a snake. This is pulp. This is classic pulp adventure. Giant snake. It's like... Now, granted, the giant snake is more of a fantasy pulp thing than a sci-fi pulp thing. But it's Star Wars. Star Wars is not science fiction. Star Wars is space opera, whatever. Giant snake. I got very excited. And that was when I realized part of why I like this is because it really is going back to the classic tropes of pulp stories. And part of why I liked The Mandalorian was because it was going back to classic Western tropes. And do I say this? Is this going too far? Look, this is my channel where I talk about what's on my mind and therefore my thoughts and my opinions. And over the last couple days, since I have seen the movie and as I've been seeing people's responses to it online and the way some people talk about it, I find myself wondering, if you don't like this movie, do you actually like Star Wars? Because for me, this is quintessential Star Wars. One of the best responses I've seen to this movie has been people saying, this is the first Star Wars movie some kids are going to be seeing in theaters. And that's what matters. The people this movie is really for is not the fanboys. I'm sorry, but it's not the fanboys who think that Star Wars is supposed to be whatever they've built it up to be in their heads. It's not for them. Star Wars is for the 6-year-old who sat in the theater wide-eyed and fell in love with something. That's what Star Wars is. And like, I talked in my last video about how I grew up reading the EU books, and the example I used there and that I always kind of come back to is that I read the Han Solo trilogy by A.C. Crispin, and I liked that so much better than I like the Solo movie. But the reason I always drifted away from the EU ultimately was because it took things a little too seriously. It was too sci-fi when Star Wars is not science fiction. Star Wars is space opera. And like, I know I haven't really talked about the story much, and it's mostly because I don't want to spoil anything, because ultimately I'm saying, if you like Star Wars, you should see this movie. And certainly don't let anyone online influence your opinion on it. Go see the movie. It's fun. It's sweet. It has heart. It's the puppetry, again, the puppetry on Grogu is absolutely incredible. And the movie is a lot of fun. Interestingly, it's not a 3-act structure. I don't know what kind of structure it is, but it's not 3 acts, which I think, admittedly, I think that might throw some people off, but I don't think it should ruin it for anyone. People said with the trailers that they were like, I don't know what to expect from this because it's not telling me what the movie is about. The thing about the movie is the story evolves so much and everything kind of unfolds, and there are a lot of twists and turns. It's kind of hard to say what it's about other than the Mandalorian and Grogu go on an assignment, and it doesn't go the way it was intended, so they keep having new challenges that spawned from this one assignment. And I don't really know what to say beyond that, because I feel like anything else would be spoiling it. Just that Grogu and Rada are adorable, and the scene of them playing on the beach is so wholesome. And the best part of the movie, and this is what frustrates me, is it's like, if I were to talk about the story, I know exactly the sequence I want to talk about, but it would be too much of a spoiler. And that's okay. Somewhat of a spoiler. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you for watching the video up to this point, but I am going to spoil something now. The best sequence in this movie is when Din is injured, and so Grogu has to take care of him. And this is actually a fairly extensive sequence, and we get to see how much Grogu has grown and how much he's learned from Din, and how much he's grown. And it's so sweet. Sweet doesn't even feel right, like the right word. It's everything to me, is seeing Grogu take care of an injured Din. I don't even know what else to say, just that it was so good. And it was so well done. And no, it's not some kind of masterpiece, and it's not great cinema, but it's a good story, and it's fun, and like I said, it has heart. I don't know. I don't know what else to say. I loved this movie so much more than I expected. It has not changed my mentality towards Star Wars in general, aside from the fact that I really want to go back to Disneyland and go to Galaxy's Edge again and do everything Mandalorian related. I was telling my boyfriend, like, you know, we're gonna have to do Smuggler's Run at least 3 more times, because I have to do all the Mandalorian sequences now. What was it? I saw a tweet where someone said, I can't help it, Grogu capitalism works on me. Me too. I'm a sucker. I used to have a Grogu plushie, and I don't anymore, and I'm so frustrated. I was setting up for this video, and I'm like, it feels so incomplete without a Grogu. I'm so sad I don't have one, and I can't get one right now. The movie was so good. I'm just talking about it is making me so happy. Just so well done. It was so well done. And yeah, this to me is quite possibly the best Star Wars movie ever. This is absolutely my favorite Star Wars movie. And I think that's everything I have to say right now. This is not actually the video I planned to record this week. I was gonna talk some more about I was gonna talk about the way indie creators are being treated in the animation fandom, for lack of a better word. And I thought that would be a really good follow-up to my Milo Winter video. But last couple days have not gone as expected, and I figured this movie left a big impact on me, and I just really wanted to talk about it. And so now I have. Now, normally I end my videos asking you to tell me what you think down in the comments. I'm a little hesitant to do that because I know what the Star Wars fandom is like, and quite frankly, I do not want someone... Here's how I'm gonna say this. If your only interaction with this movie so far is listening to someone online tell you how bad it is because it's not what they think Star Wars should be, I don't necessarily want to hear your opinion on it. Let me know your favorite Grogu moment, or your favorite moment from the movie in general, down in the comments. I would love to know, and I would love to gush about the movie with people. I think that's everything I have to say, so I'm going to wrap this up here. And yeah, next week probably will be talking about indie animation and the weirdness over there. But yeah, thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, maybe check out some of my others, and if you like those as well, maybe subscribe to the channel. Until next time, stay safe, take care, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye-bye!